Karla met with Beyond Stillness for 9 weeks to articulate and publicly share this story of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope. To learn more about our programs, services, or to sponsor a guest on their story crafting journey, please visit www.beyondstillness.org. This week on Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke, we welcome guest Karla Bigornia, who shares her story of recovery and rediscovery. Growing up in Cebu City, Philippines, today's guest found joy through singing and dancing with her family. But a stroke at age 30 changed everything, leaving her to fight for her health, memory, and speech. In this episode, Karla shares her story from the depths of struggle to a breakthrough moment of singing that ignited her spirit. Tune in for a story of faith, resilience, family, and the power of expression and connection through music. Thank you for joining us for Part 1, Karla Bigornia's story.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org.
Hello and welcome to Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke. Stroke offers a powerful, life-changing shift in perspective. Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. Beyond Stillness offers a moment of pause for storytelling and reflection. Ultimately, we create a welcoming environment that reveres the moment beyond stroke's paralysis. Still moments unite humanity and divinity. I'm your host, Molly Bucola. As we begin today, we take a moment of pause, a moment to honor the wisdom that has emerged through recovery. And we give thanks. Now, Karla Bigornia's story.
This is Alexa, Karla's niece. She asked me to be her voice today and share a piece of her journey. It's a story of strength, healing, and faith. And we hope that wherever you are in your own path, this brings you comfort, courage, and light. Growing up in Cebu City, Philippines, my siblings, cousins, and I would memorize pop songs, lots of ABBA. We'd choreograph dances, gather outfits, and perform on our makeshift stage. We used our creativity, worked together, laughed, and entertained. We even performed for the nuns at Carmelite Monastery, a New Year's celebration every January 1st. That was the highlight of my year. We spread joy. Singing and dancing made me feel so alive, happy, and deeply connected. At one point, I told my parents that I wanted to be a singer and dancer. By the time I was 30, my life had taken me in a very different direction. I was 210 pounds, 5'1", and my blood pressure hit 250. I'd inconsistently been taking blood pressure and blood sugar medications. I would eat anything and everything, especially chips, candies, and chocolate. I saw no need for exercise, which is odd because at that time I was a nurse. I worked hard to earn the auditor position at a BPO call center for a company in the US. It was a sought-after position and it paid well. I worked a lot of nights. My flexible schedule and extra cash allowed me more time to hang out, eat, smoke, and on the weekends I drank alcohol. I felt that I needed to relieve the stress from work. I was very depressed and often upset with others during that time. I used to pray, I want a reset. The reset came on November 22, 2016. I was eating breakfast with friends and hanging out after work. Suddenly, my head started throbbing and I felt so dizzy. Later that day, I rushed to the bathroom, vomited twice, and it was incontinent. All of a sudden, the room felt dark. I looked around, then covered one eye, and everything was light. I covered the other. Dark. I couldn't see out of my right eye, and I knew that was a dangerous symptom. I turned to my boss and asked him to call ERUF, the Emergency Rescue Unit Foundation, and I told him that it was an emergency. That's the ambulance system in Cebu City, in my home country, and my dad is the founder of the response system. They say that when the emergency rescue arrived, the paramedics realized that I was the daughter of the pulmonologist, so they contacted my dad immediately. Doctors found out that I had arteriovenous malformation, or AVM, and performed a major craniotomy on my brain. When I finally woke, my sister told me that I didn't have hair anymore. What a nightmare! My long hair was my favorite part of my body. I laid there with tears rolling down my cheeks. I soon found out that the hair was only part of my loss. At one point, my sister Kina put the phone in my right hand. I looked down and I asked, "What's this?" poking my right hand with my left. I sounded like a 2-year-old. She responded, "That's your hand." "This is my hand." I waved my left hand in the air. Kina smiled and giggled a bit. "You have 2 hands." I looked down at my right hand and was confused. I simply said, "Oh, it's for my phone." From my point of view, that hand was a separate object, a necessary object. We all need a phone holder. I was grateful that many friends and family members visited me in the hospital, but I couldn't tell them. I knew that they were important people in my life, but I couldn't recall their names. Even my best friends, my own sisters, my parents as well. It was frustrating, discouraging, and lonely not being able to get my point across. On a rainy night, while laying in the hospital bed, I prayed to God, asking for guidance and help. I gazed over at my sister Kina's sleeping body, curled on the thin visitor's bed next to me. I cried. I had so much pent-up emotion and so much fear. I checked to make sure that I wouldn't upset anyone, and once I knew I was alone, I let it all out. The room was eerily dark and silent. Then I started to cry, hard. My sobs echoed from wall to wall in that small hospital room. I tried to hold it in, but I was bursting at the seams. By then, I realized I no longer had a job that I worked hard to earn. I cried because my boyfriend left me. I cried because I almost died. I cried because I couldn't remember things. And I cried even more because I was scared of my future. Would I ever be the same? And when I could weep no more, my whole body released as if it surrendered. I was exhausted. I just laid there and looked at the ceiling. One day I will be okay. Bahala na. That's a name for God in Filipino. Bathala. The words sounded like a mother's to a crying baby, and I fell asleep. When I woke the next morning, I felt refreshed. My tears were my own little secret. So were my words with Bathala. That morning, my senses must have heightened. Everything was so bright, the hospital lights and sun shining through the windows. It was a stark difference from the dark, rainy night before. Everything felt new and exciting. Maybe I finally gave up. I felt so different. Looking back, maybe I had to fully surrender before accepting the reset offered. Soon after, my physical therapist entered the room with a joyful smile. Time to go outside? He had worked with my right arm and leg, and we practiced foot placement leading up to that. But this was a special day. Excitement boiled over. I sat in bed, reaching out my arm toward him. He helped me stand and supported my side. I wanted to walk so fast. I wanted to show everyone what I had regained. He stood next to me, reminding me to focus. I needed to focus on each foot placement, maneuver, and weight shift. I needed to be careful. I felt so ready to get up and go, but he was urging me to be methodical and cautious. The hallway was bright. The blue sky was a reminder of my progress and readiness to move forward. My senses were heightened. The sounds of a busy hospital, the scent of clean sheets, it all made me very happy. I didn't have words to name any of it, but everything was so new, so bright, and so alive. Moments like these faded in and out during the next couple months. When we returned home, my sister and cousins, who were both nurses, took care of me. My mom, who's also a doctor, went to the speech therapy unit in her hospital and found a speech pathologist to visit our house every other day. I distinctly remember the clean-cut speech pathologist and I sat in the living room for an extensive exam. There were cards and numbers and pictures that I needed to identify and sentences that I needed to complete. It was discouraging because I knew the answers, but I just couldn't say them. It was so frustrating for me, but it clearly showed what I was going through in my daily life at the time. I knew everything, it just wasn't coming out. He told me that I had conduction aphasia. I had difficulty reading and writing and following conversations. I still have difficulty understanding multi-step directions. When he gave me the diagnosis, at first I was really sad. I was hoping that one day I'd be okay and be able to speak again. He was hopeful too. It was hard for me because I had to start from scratch. ABCs, reading, writing, and I needed speech therapy. I couldn't say my parents' names, nor could I say my own. I kept offering people food and broken speech. In the Philippines, food and hospitality are very important. I was doing everything I could to stay involved. But my involvement was like that of a little kid. I needed a lot of help. I was signaling for things I wanted because I struggled to find the words. I needed help around the house because I was still learning how to move around without vision on my right side. People had to be very patient with me, and I had to be patient with myself. Even though I was surrounded by loved ones, that time was very lonely. I laid in bed with my phone, and technology was my friend. Together, we made our own therapeutic fun. The Storybot show on YouTube taught me the ABCs. The app Lumosity helped exercise my brain, and Duolingo was helpful for me too. I've always loved learning languages. I speak English, Cebuano, Tagalog, a little Spanish, and a bit of Chinese. I used Duolingo to reconnect those neural pathways. I had so much time. I laid in bed and tried to keep myself busy. One day, I was listening to Hands Down by Dashboard Confessional, and it reminded me of my college years. My best friends and I would spend time at the cafe listening to music. We would put Hands Down on repeat, scream the lyrics, and laugh together. This song brought me back to that moment, and I felt so alive and so connected. They were moments of pure joy, but I could no longer retrieve the lyrics to sing joyfully. Or so I thought. At first, I tried to listen and remember the lyrics. Then, while laying in bed, I started humming, and my foot found the beat. Then the chorus came. I sang. I sang the words loud and clear. I laughed in astonishment. I remembered the words and sang them clearly. I felt so happy. When I finished singing the song, I let my playlist go and sang song after song. I remembered all the lyrics and they came out on time. I ended up singing 3 full songs from different bands, and I was so grateful, excited, and amazed that the words were on time, loud, and clear. Had I made a miraculous recovery? It was exhilarating. I soon found out that singing was easier than talking. I took it as a mini win. I love to sing, and it feels like joy leaving my body, and it is so natural for me. It took me back to those moments performing on the makeshift stage as a kid with my cousins. Once I realized I could, I regularly sang songs and danced around the house. I felt so free after feeling restricted in so many other ways. I'd belt out my favorite songs. Sometimes people would sing along, other times they'd laugh. Either way, we were spreading joy, and I found a way to express myself and connect. When the time came to plan our New Year family performance at the Carmelite Monastery, I was ready. In addition to preparing for my part, I took responsibility to coordinate with the others. I connected with my nephews, nieces, and cousins about their acts, collected their song choices, and worked to organize everything, from downloading music to setting up microphones, Bluetooth speakers, and backups. That day was incredible. I was overjoyed to be with my family and give thanks to God. I realized that it was the day I prayed for at the hospital, when I sobbed and finally surrendered. Thank you, Lord. Bahala na. The first time I performed on stage after my stroke, I sang One Day by Matisyahu with my cousin Nevin. Since I couldn't say all the lyrics, I sang the chorus while he carried the rest. It was a deeply joyful and proud moment. Performing again. That ceremony was more than just a New Year's offering for me. It was a moment when everything came together. At the Mass, I had lots to give thanks for. I offered gratitude for my family, friends, brain, body, voice, and my reset. I was grateful to perform, sing, dance, and spread joy. I had learned to let go and trust. All that matters in life now is faith, hope, and love. Thanks be to God. May I use my gifts and my talents to spread joy.
Storytelling empowers us to share our experiences in a way that invites others to reflect on their own. In closing, we offer reflection questions as an opportunity to spark dialogue with yourself, friends, family, or fellow stroke survivors. In a moment, I will read questions aloud. You can also find them written in the podcast episode description. Community conversation prompts. What meaningful traditions or activities help you feel connected to others? How do you share your strengths and talents in a meaningful way? Thank you for listening to Part 1, Karla Bigornia's story. Stick with us for Part 2, Karla Bigornia's interview.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org. Another way to support is to like, share, or subscribe to our weekly show. Again, thank you for devoting time and space for this week's episode of Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke.
Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. Karla's story reminds us that a survivor's journey is more than just recovering. It's rediscovering what makes us feel alive. Karla also reminds us that strength comes in many forms, and sometimes it's in the moment of surrender that we find our true power. If this story of courage and transformation resonated with you, please like, share, or subscribe, and consider donating to Beyond Stillness Stories After Stroke. Remember, as part of the stroke community, you are more than supportive. You are inspirational.